War threatens to spill from the Strait of Hormuz to Bab el-Mandeb, putting a second critical oil choke point on the front line of the U.S. Iran confrontation. Mujtaba has urged Iran-aligned fighters to close the Red Sea gateway, signaling Tehran's willingness to weaponize geography, turning allied militias into leverage on global trade routes. With Houthi missiles and drones poised near Bab el-Mandeb, the world's tankers and cargo ships could find themselves under siege in yet another narrow strait that keeps the energy market afloat. Iran has asked Yemen's Houthi movement to prepare to close the Red Sea oil route, according to reports, effectively signaling that Tehran may use its allies there to threaten a key global shipping lane. The move would be triggered if the U.S. strikes Iranian power infrastructure, with Tehran reportedly tying any attack on its electricity grid to a retaliatory effort to disrupt maritime traffic. Iran has already conveyed this message to its Houthi allies, sources say, putting them on alert and linking their future actions to Washington's next steps against Iranian targets. The Houthis have reportedly deployed missiles and drones near the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, positioning assets close to the choke point through which much Red Sea oil and cargo traffic must pass. The group is said to be awaiting orders before launching attacks on shipping, meaning vessels could suddenly come under fire if Tehran decides to activate the plan. This reported plan follows Trump's threat to target Iran's power infrastructure, suggesting Tehran is preparing a direct response that trades damage to its grid for disruption of global sea routes. Closure or serious disruption of the Red Sea route would significantly interfere with global energy supplies, experts warn, as tankers and cargo ships rely on that passage to move oil and goods between Asia, the Middle East and Europe. The Houthi movement has issued a warning likened to a nuclear-level alert over Saudi airspace, a stark declaration meant to signal the highest level of threat and prompt immediate international attention. After a Saudi-launched missile struck Sana'a airport, Houthi authorities quickly responded by announcing a no-fly zone, claiming the measure is necessary to protect their territory and prevent further strikes. The new security order has pushed airlines to reroute or suspend flights, a disruption that analysts warn could permanently alter commercial aviation patterns in the region and shift global flight logistics. The Houthis issued a blunt demand to the international community: treat our warnings as credible and immediate, while imposing a ban on flights transiting Saudi airspace that they say will be enforced until their security concerns are addressed. In the wake of the airport attack, the Houthis reiterated threats reminiscent of tactics used against Israel, explicitly targeting Saudi airspace and signaling a willingness to escalate strikes if their conditions are not met. The Houthis have issued a clear warning to international carriers, urging them not to operate in Saudi Arabian airspace until the restrictions they oppose are formally lifted and safety guarantees are provided. The Yemeni group publicly implored airlines and governments to take our warnings seriously, framing the plea within a wider context of escalating regional tensions and the very real possibility of further military reprisals. That advisory comes on the heels of reports that Saudi forces conducted a strike aimed at Sana'a International Airport, an attack that sharply heightened fears about the safety of nearby civilian flights. Tensions spiked after a Mahan airplane from Iran landed in Sana'a, which is under Houthi control, prompting alarm among regional actors and observers who saw the arrival as politically and militarily significant. According to Houthi statements and unconfirmed reports, that aircraft was carrying senior movement leaders returning from travel in Iran, a detail that added to the diplomatic sensitivity of the flight. The delegation's trip was reportedly to attend the funeral of Iran's former supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, an event that underscored the close political and ideological ties between Tehran and the Houthi leadership. Saudi forces are reported to have struck Sana'a International Airport around the time the aircraft was returning from Iran, an action that Houthi officials say directly endangered the plane and its passengers. Following the strike and growing concerns for its safety, the plane diverted and was able to make a safe landing at Al-Hudaydah, the Red Sea port city, according to local authorities. The Houthis warn that civilian flights remain at risk as long as Sana'a airport faces what they describe as an effective blockade, arguing that restricted access and military threats make operations unsafe. This aviation advisory arrives amid a renewed flare-up of tensions centered on Yemen's principal international airport, turning what had been tentative post-conflict normalcy back into a flashpoint. The Houthis have a history of issuing comparable warnings in the past, specifically targeting commercial flights with perceived links to Israel, which has repeatedly raised alarm across the aviation sector. Regional carriers and aviation authorities are now closely monitoring the evolving security situation, reassessing routes and contingency plans to mitigate potential risks to passengers and crew. The latest Houthi advisory has reignited fresh concerns about the safety of civilian aviation across the Middle East, prompting airlines, insurers, and governments to re-evaluate risk and operational decisions. Yemen says the Bab el-Mandeb Strait will be shut alongside the Strait of Hormuz if the conflict continues to escalate. Houthi leaders claim that a dual blockade could trigger a massive shock to global energy markets, with crude prices reaching $200 a barrel. A senior Yemeni official says Bab el-Mandeb and Hormuz could be closed together as part of a coordinated military operation. Mohammed al-Farah, a member of the Houthi political bureau, said, and I quote, "If the current situation aggravates, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait and the Strait of Hormuz will be closed in an operational alliance. Oil prices would then skyrocket to $200 a barrel in a dreadful shock." Unquote. The Houthis have warned that any new Saudi strike will trigger a wider escalation across regional sea lanes. The group also says its forces are prepared to strike deep inside Saudi Arabia if Riyadh launches further attacks. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait remains one of the world's most critical maritime chokepoints, linking the Red Sea with the Suez Canal. Ansarullah says shutting both Bab el-Mandeb and the Strait of Hormuz would deliver a devastating blow to global energy markets. The Houthis accuse Washington of encouraging Saudi Arabia to open a new military front against Yemen. Yemen has accused Saudi Arabia of targeting Sana'a International Airport in violation of international humanitarian law. Houthi leaders warn that Saudi Arabia will face serious consequences if further attacks are carried out. The group says its campaign to break what it calls the long-running blockade of Yemen will continue.
$25 करोड़ गरीब गरीबी को परास्त करके बाहर निकले।
For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
The fastest news breaks.
Requested PM saying that look, you will have to speak to Putin and to Zelensky.
The biggest newsmakers.
The relationship with India is probably the most important bilateral relationship the U.S. will have for the rest of this century.
The capital delivered quite an election result today.
Expert analysis.
The million-dollar question today is how to stop this dance of death.
Ground reports.
I'm standing at the crossroad of the Kumbh Mela. Behind me are more than 100 entry ghats.
Long-form interviews.
Exclusionary politics is reflected in Manipur case as well. You don't bother because this is a small state.
Have you ever wondered what happens when a banking dynasty meets tides of world history, intrigue, and a dash of myth?
Why exactly did the US topple the Sheikh Hasina government?
HD videos. We don't just break news, we break it down.